Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Uncontested Investing. I'm your host, Nate Zielinski, and today we have another great episode cooked up for you. I'm sitting across the table from Jacob Therrien. Jacob, thank you for making the trip today, all the way from Connecticut this morning. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll get into it today.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on today, Nate. I really appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the podcast. When you took over, I was really excited for you, so congratulations, and really excited to see what you continue to do with it. My name is Jacob Therrien. I work with Bridge Loan Network as the business development specialist. We are a software built specifically for the private lending industry, both brokers and private lenders.
Nice. And that's where I want to start, too, because kind of the new wave of uncontested investing is just sharing stories and kind of broadening people's horizons about all the opportunities that are in the investment space and not just strictly investing. So for you specifically, we have very familiar career paths from when we first started. We're both exec support graduates from a company back in Connecticut called Ticket Network. So is that how you found out about BLN? Was that kind of your end goal, like starting that career path? Or tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's funny you ask, Nate. It's by happenstance that I ended up here because I moved to Connecticut after college, basically to pursue a girl who I now have married. I didn't really have a career plan per se. I have a background in technology and MIS, and I found the Ticket Network exec support position that you mentioned just online, doing some random job searches one day, and the intrigue there was the opportunity to explore different businesses. Mm-hmm. You know, the Ticket Network umbrella has a lot of different businesses underneath it, and through the exec program, you got to experience some of those other opportunities and really find out what you were interested in. And it was a very good kind of way to get your foot in the door and just kind of weed out experiences that, you know, you weren't really fond of, and then, you know, more things that you actually enjoyed doing. And that's really how I found Bridge Loan Network, was working with them on small little projects through the exec support team, and then getting closer with my now manager, Matt, and really just having that kind of common sense of wanting to grow the company and do something that's meaningful and impactful to the space.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of one of the things I also wanted to talk about, too, because I find it very interesting that you're in the tech space, the management information systems degrees. We joked about it before we just hopped on here recording. You're from Vermont, not necessarily the tech hub that, you know, San Francisco is, right, or Silicon Valley. But what kind of intrigued you from a young age to kind of be like, that's the direction I want to go? Like, what was the end goal with a management information systems degree?
Yeah, so I went to school just outside of Boston, and I really didn't have a plan outside of wanting to go to business school. I knew I wanted to end up in business, maybe some leg of sales or something like that. And then it wasn't until my late freshman year, early sophomore year, when I actually discovered what MIS, Management Information Systems, was, and kind of the impact that it was having on businesses today, right? Technology is always evolving and changing, and that's an opportunity that I saw because, you know, I knew that I wanted to enter a space that was growing and something that wasn't going to not be existing within 5-10 years, et cetera. So, you know, it was by chance that I found this specific role in this industry, in private money and investment space. And I really I liked the opportunity to, you know, build a technology that there's clearly a need for it in our space, and building out something that's user-friendly, that benefits the user and makes their job easier. That's one of the things that we talked a lot about in school when we were studying MIS, is what the impact should be for the user, how it should resolve their problems. And that's kind of how I got led down that path.
Yeah, and that's a great blend of customer service and technology, too, that you guys do at Bridge Loan Network. So that kind of worked out perfectly. I want to stay on the technology point for a minute here, because how important just do you think it is for maybe the investors listening out there? How important is it to have a beginner level understanding at least? Should they be pursuing like technology know-how on the side a little bit, because there's so many phishing attempts, fraud attempts, you name it. It seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent. You know, you deal with it at work through emails or text messages. So what's your advice maybe for beginner investors when it comes to obviously you want to focus on your investment career, but the technology side needs some attention too, I feel like.
Yeah, certainly. And I would say, not just investing, but anytime you're starting a new business or a new venture, you need to take into consideration an infrastructure, right? Even if it is an investment, approach that you're taking in real estate, you have to have some type of an infrastructure to, maintain those investments and make sure that you're not necessarily forgetting about properties, making sure that, all of those things that you talked about are rock solid, your security levels. When you're communicating with your brokers or even a lender, you want to make sure that your email is secure. You don't want to be using, some janky third-party email service. You want to have a legit email service and things of that nature. As investors start to get more seasoned and as their portfolio starts to grow and as they start to expand their investments, that's really when I would encourage them to take a deeper dive into technology, because technology, software in our space is ever changing. There are new products coming daily to the market. And I think from an investor's perspective, it's extremely important to stay up to date, at least be aware of some of those things that are coming out, seeing where they might be able to enhance your business. I know there's a lot of products to help investors find new properties, or, in the appraisal world right now, there's a lot of technology being used to cut cost or cut turnaround times for those appraisal reports that are needed for these investment properties.
Nice. And just going a layer deeper on that, is that like YouTube? Is there like a magazine out there? Like for you yourself, I don't know how like tapped in you are to the tech community, like how much you read up on it. Like, is there like sources that they can find easily?
Yeah, certainly. So for our space specifically, there's a couple resources that I follow daily. NMP, National Mortgage Professional. There are a number of publications and online services that give education like this. The associations in our space, American Association of Private Lenders, always have a lot of good resources and news outlets to keep investors up to date on what's coming out.
I think that's important for them to hear. That's kind of why I asked, because learning a new skill or diving into a different industry such as technology can be a little bit intimidating. So being able to find those easily.
And listen, Nate, I'm not telling people to go out there and spend 4 hours of your day researching technology, because investing is typically probably their main focus, and that's where they make their money. But if you take 10 minutes in the morning while you're having a cup of coffee and you read today's article or yesterday's article, you get a little bit of that insight, and you can kind of get some ideas of what you should research further, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And next direction I want to take this is, we kind of talked about technology and weaving that in with customer service. That's kind of your 9 to 5, I guess, if you will, right? Is kind of overseeing that and making sure the user experience for Bridge Loan Network is a great one. You kind of carry that over to LinkedIn, though. You're one of the most active people on there with, giving people props when they just got a promotion, sharing your thoughts on, people when they post. So where does that attitude or outlook come? Because, it can be infectious, right? When you see somebody, paying it forward or giving somebody their props. So where did that come from you? Did somebody inspire you to do that, or does that just come naturally for you?
Well, I think part of it comes from playing team sports growing up my whole life. I played quarterback from, youth all the way through high school. And I was always the person on the team that was encouraging others. And my parents always referred to me as the cheerleader on the team, because I was always, hyping up my friends and making sure that everybody felt good to perform well, right? And I take that same approach on LinkedIn in our space, because one, I just want to be authentic. I'm being my true self. I really do want everybody out there to win, and I do get excited when I see my friends in the industry or people that we work with winning. It's exciting to me. So that's part of the reason why I do that. But I also want to encourage others to be authentic on there and to talk to each other and create that social aspect on LinkedIn. I think sometimes LinkedIn is forgotten that it is a social media. It's not just kind of professional work. It should be professional, but you can also make it fun and make it personal and create that community aspect. One thing that I really want people to understand, and one of the things that I understood really early on from traveling and going to trade shows, is that our space is large enough to have multiple winners. There are multiple great technologies in our space, and I like to see those other technologies do well. There are a lot of lenders and brokers in our space, and there's room for everybody to compete and do well. And that's kind of the attitude that I'm trying to bring, is we can still root for each other and watch each other win from the sidelines.
Yep. I want the record to show that I didn't bring this up. This wasn't planned. I've talked about it a few times. I'm addicted to sports in my spare time. So I got to ask you, you're dropping back in high school in Vermont. Are you a Tom Brady guy? Who was like the quarterback that you looked up to and kind of like modeled your game after?
So growing up, I've always been a Jets fan. So I was a really, really big Chad Pennington fan.
Yeah.
So
that's a throwback, deep cut right there.
It's kind of similar body type. You know, I'm not the biggest, tallest guy by any means, but just kind of that scrappy mentality, tuck it and run if you have to. You know, just leading by example,
Nice.
right?
All right, back to business. Going back to the social media, right? We talked about, specifically you and your positivity. How important do you think social media is? Should investors be spending more time with it? A couple years ago, I had the pleasure of watching Gary Vee speak. He was a keynote speaker at a trade show.
One of the best.
Yeah, right. And his message he's obviously speaking to a bunch of people in their mid 30s, people, nearing 50, right? So social media to them seems like such a foreign endeavor. It's more for like the teenagers, right? But how just important do you think it is? And if people are on the fence out there of like, is social media really going to help me, or is it going to end up being a distraction that, again, takes away from finding investment properties? Because, social media is even a tool to find them. So
right, and that's kind of where I was going to start with, Nate, is there are so many opportunities out there on social media, whether it is LinkedIn or Facebook groups. Like, I know some of the largest groups in our country on Facebook are mortgage-related groups, right? So if you're not at least there's two approaches to social media, right? You can be like myself and be very active and involved, but you can also be on there and just kind of intake that content and not necessarily produce content. So you can get on social media just for research purposes or just to find new leads or new partnerships, right? I think from an investor's perspective, there's opportunities to find new lenders or new broker partners to work with that can, take your business to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, we're off to a great start. Jake's bringing the fire today. A bunch of great answers so far. We're going to take a quick break, shout out to our sponsors, and we'll be back with the Money Making Minute. Whether you are pursuing long-term or short-term ventures, RCN Capital has a wide range of loan programs that will help you reach your financial goals. We have loan programs for fix and flips, long-term rentals, new construction, and even multifamily properties. And don't forget to ask about our Platinum program for very experienced investors. To learn more about our loan programs, click the link in the bio or send an email to info@rcncapital.com today. And we're back with Uncontested Investing. I'm sitting across Jacob Therrien from Bridge Loan Network. Jacob, we're going to dive right into it, the Money Making Minute segment. So this is your opportunity to give our listeners an investment strategy, app, skill, habit, part of their routine, or just general professional advice that you think can, take them to the next level and really help them succeed in 2024 and beyond. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. Mine is a piece of advice for the Money Making Minute, and I would say for anybody entering our space, investors, brokers, etc., try to find a mentor in our space, somebody that's seasoned, somebody that's experienced. Ask them questions, learn from mistakes that they've made and advice that they have to give. There are so many people that are such wealths of knowledge in our space. They've walked so many different ways of life, and they've ended up here in the mortgage space. They all bring different perspectives. They all bring different advice. They all bring different attitudes. But find somebody that you align with, watch them, learn from them, see them go through different parts of their career and see how they handle those different ups and downs, and just use them as a resource to grow yourself professionally and your business as well.
That's a great piece of advice, Jacob. I think finding a mentor can be a huge key to people's success in the industry. What would you say to people that might be hesitant to seek out that mentor? They don't want to bother them, don't want to waste their time. What do you say to that?
Yeah, so personally, I've found that the best approach is to kind of let it happen organically if possible. Hopefully, this person is somebody that you're around enough where that can kind of happen naturally, right? You kind of grow into that relationship where it starts maybe by just asking a couple pieces of advice, but then maybe you start having monthly meetings or weekly meetings or something along that line. So try to, if you can, try to find it organically and produce it that way. If that's not something that's really possible, maybe this person's not necessarily close to you, I would just approach them and have a conversation and kind of lay out exactly why you think they would be a good mentor for you and what exactly the aspects of what they do interest you and why you think. Because if you just say, hey, listen, I want you to be my mentor and I'm going to pester you all the time and ask you these questions, that's not very appealing from the mentor's perspective, right? But if you say, listen, I have these aspirations and you're somebody that I really admire for X, Y, and Z reasons, that might make that person a little bit more apt and open to actually wanting to be a mentor for somebody.
No, I think.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
I think there are a lot of people that would be very willing to offer advice and help others grow in this space for sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's kind of going back to the technology piece, right? Like learning something new, kind of intimidating, asking somebody to be your mentor, kind of intimidating. But once you do open that dialogue, you can kind of see people actually in this industry love giving back, love sharing that knowledge, love kind of paving the way and, you know, being part of somebody else's success, right? Like,
certainly.
As you mentioned, this industry, a lot of people can win. There's a lot of misconceptions about doing it by yourself, hoarding, you know, all the leads, all the know-how, right?
Right.
But once you're actually in the industry, it's a very different experience.
I mean, it's the foundation of this podcast, right, Nate? Like, that's why you guys started this podcast, is to help investors and widen their knowledge. So I think it's vital for sure.
And do you have a mentor specifically, or?
So I don't necessarily say I have an official mentor, but I have a few people in our space that I definitely look up to and go to advice frequently. They know who they are for sure.
Nice. Love that. So in that same vein with having a mentor, right, I think another important thing that people can overlook sometimes is having a team to help you, support you, bounce ideas off of. I believe at Bridge Loan Network, you guys have a pretty tight-knit team. You do a lot with a little on that side in the technology space. So can you kind of talk about what building that team atmosphere has been like for you, how rewarding that is and how it makes your job and life easier?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. When I joined the company, I came from exec support, and when I came in, there was literally just myself and my now manager Matt as salespeople. We were the only two that were really client facing. We were meant to be kind of middlemen between our development team and the end users, and that's how it started for us. And we quickly realized that we had a product that was viable, and we were going to need some more manpower to be able to intake and handle all of this influx of business that we produced. And I think we did a very good job of hiring people that were like-minded in the sense that they wanted to grow as our company grew. We started small and we've been expanding over the last few years. We've even grown out to positions that we didn't have just a year ago now. So it's been exciting for me to watch our team grow and bring on additional talent. We kind of take it, and I don't know if this is necessarily the most accurate reference, but I would say we take like a pit crew mentality. Everybody's cross-trained to be able to help if somebody's out for the day or if somebody needs just some assistance because they're a little bit overwhelmed. So our team really is a team in the sense where I'll drop what I'm doing to help somebody else out on the team if they need it, and really just we collaborate all the time to make sure that our product is doing everything that we want it to do, that it's the best product available for our users, and just constantly trying to improve our process, procedures, and the overall product.
Yeah, that's an awesome answer. I like that, the pit crew, all hands on deck.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially, as your company is growing, people bring different perspectives and they have different ideas. And even from an investor's perspective, right? Like you might not have employees under you, but you have contractors that you use frequently. You probably have a property manager somewhere down the line. So these people are a part of your team too. And you want to work with people that are just as smart or smarter than you and are experts in other things that you're not, because that's really how you as a professional grow and learn every day.
I think you hit on an important buzzword there too, right? Growth and expansion are two things that all investors seek, right? They want to expand their portfolio, make more money.
Yeah.
Businesses that are in the industry, I've had many conversations where people are talking about scaling what they currently do. What kind of challenges do you think BLN has faced and overcome, or what's the most rewarding part of that growth trajectory that you guys are currently on?
That's a really good question. I think For me, the toughest part has just been finding people that fit. We've gone through not a lot of people, right? We've only hired a few people and had to make changes, but essentially it's just finding that culture fit and somebody, like I said, that has that same mindset of wanting to grow as the company grows. Not everybody can do that, right? There may be a life situation or something that really doesn't allow you to take that slow growth approach, but those are the people that we find fit best with us, because they like to go through not growing pains, but they like those transition periods, and they're willing to work with us through those. And I've been with the company now for 6 years, and we've gone through a number of different transition periods, and it's important to have a team around you that's willing to continue and push forward and see the vision for those transition periods, for sure.
So learning new skills through like technology and getting a better grasp for that, social media, talking about growth. One of the places where that can actually all happen organically and at the same time is the trade show floor. We both, travel frequently with our roles for our company. So can you kind of peel back the lens and just kind of talk about how important you think trade shows are? And again, there's a lot of investors out there that might not think that ticket's worth it to attend. What kind of insight and, positive things can come from attending a trade show for an investor?
Yeah, so my first advice as it comes to trade shows is do your research, right? There are so many trade shows that happen within our space, and some of them are very generalized and some of them are very specific, right? So first, if you're considering a trade show, make sure it makes sense for you as an investor, if that's who you are. You want to make sure the people you're looking for are going to be there. If you're looking to find new lenders or broker partners, or maybe you're looking for the newest technology, you want to make sure that those are the type of vendors that are going to be at that show. You don't want to blindly sign up for a show because somebody told you it was a good one. You want to make sure it aligns with what you're looking for. I think two things that I always go into trade shows trying to take away is meeting people and learning things. If you can meet somebody new at every stage of the trade show, maybe the first networking event, you meet somebody new. Then you try to do the same thing on the trade show floor the next day. And then at the following cocktail hour or event, you just try to learn something new and meet somebody new. You come away from the trade show with invaluable knowledge and new connections. That's the biggest ROI from a trade show. Not necessarily getting one deal done or meeting one specific person, but it's that network that you're going to create, because that's going to allow you to continue to grow your business. That network of learning other professionals and meeting, other service providers or other investors and learning about their strategies, that is crucial to an investor's business and the growth of their professional business as well.
That was a great point there at the end too. I think they have to be okay with that delayed gratification, right? Because you're not going to leave the trade show floor. Sometimes you do, and you have a deal working while you're, heading back to the airport, flying home, right? But a lot of these connections are fostered over time. Can't tell you how many times I've seen people on the road more than once, right? It's not very frequent where you just see somebody once at a trade show and then don't see them again in our industry. So again, that delayed gratification down the line of helping their business can be crucial as well. So some more impactful insight from Jacob Therrien. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back with Deal Breaker, Deal Maker. Stay with us. Are you a private lender or mortgage broker looking to streamline your loan origination process? Look no further than Bridge Loan Network. Their powerful cloud-based software platforms simplify lending operations from initial borrower contact all the way through to funding. With their efficient lending solutions, you can manage your lending business with ease, digitize processes, and accelerate your pipelines. Experience the future of lending technology with Bridge Loan Network and take your business to new heights. Visit their website today to learn more. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm here with Jacob Therrien, Bridge Loan Network, and our next segment is on deck. We've got Deal Breaker, Deal Maker. Jacob, just for you, we just talked about this off air. I'm going to make an exception. You can go Deal Maker, Deal Breaker, because you've got a great answer cooked up for our audience. So take it away. What are some things that can cause a deal to break down versus what common traits do all investment deals or something similar in the industry have in common that leads to a successful transaction?
Yeah, Nate. So my deal maker would actually be utilizing that network and those connections that you've made from attending trade shows or just your experience and overall, term in the industry. I think utilizing and leveraging those connections is vital to making sure a specific deal goes well and gets to the finish line, but future deals as well. Lending partners, brokers, other investors can lead you to other investment strategies or other outlets that could fund deals that maybe your typical network might not be able to get done. For the deal breaker, it's going to be piecemealing deals to the finish line. I know working with so many different lenders, one of the biggest headaches is when a client is piecemealing a deal. And what I mean by that is sending over the initial scenario one day, waiting a day or two, and then bringing back some of the docs that were requested, and just kind of taking it in not a holistic view. From an investor's perspective, the faster you get the lender the things that they need, the faster your deal is going to get closed, and the more likely it's going to be successful overall as well.
All right, thanks for sharing, Jacob. I think that's another great piece of information. The piecemealing of the deals together, right? That can just slow up the process, lead to more unorganization. And I think it's just, if you start with one bad habit, it leads to, multiple bad habits. It can really hamper deal flow. You're talking to so many different parties too, right? So not only is the investor frustrating just the lender, but there's a lot of people that are counting on this loan to close. And I think it's a domino effect that's really, a thing that investors should try to avoid.
And let's just be honest, Nate, too, like from a lender's perspective, those aren't the people you necessarily want to be doing business with all the time, right? If there's somebody that takes you 3 weeks to get everything that you asked for, you're probably not going to get that same level of experience as you would of somebody that's doing things in a timely fashion. So just from a relationship aspect, think about that from your lenders. Would that be enjoyable experience for you if you had to wait on your contractors to do what they said they were going to do? Just kind of look at it from that lens.
This is a diversion I like taking every episode, kind of in the same vein, right? Of investors, all we care about is, closing deals, getting to the finish line. Not just investors are guilty of that, but I think all parties involved can really, just get worn out with that repetitiveness, right? Of find a deal, close a deal, find a deal, close a deal. So I like taking some time to ask our guest, what is their passion project? What are they passionate about? What do you think helps you outside of work that can kind of refocus you, recharge you, and prevent that burnout? Because that's a lot of times we hear those horror stories of people get into this industry, they go all out for 3 to 4 years, and they find out it's just not sustainable. They turn around and their personal life can kind of be in shambles, and they have to pick up the pieces. So do you have anything that kind of helps you recharge and refocus outside of work?
And I would say, mortgage in a hole is just grueling, but the people that are in it because they love it, right? A lot of the people that are in this space, they really do love what they do, and that's why they work so hard, and that's why maybe sometimes it's to a fault, right? So I would say don't get yourself in that same mindset of there's no room for anything else outside of work, because that's not true, right? There's ways to make time for the things that are important to you. For myself, it's really just spending time with my family, my wife, my dog, and making sure that I'm giving them the same quality that I give to work, right? It would be unfair to put everything into the work side and not the personal side, right? So for me, what really drives me and keeps me motivated and moving forward is my family and wanting to do the best for them. And I think spending quality time and having quality conversations is something that can be very refreshing and mind clearing and just a great way to reset and set yourself up for the next day, the next week, right? Because as you mentioned, it can be very, very grueling.
Yeah. That mindset is everything. That's a solid answer right there. So as we transition into kind of the education, mentoring, training, we've kind of been talking about different avenues throughout the episode. For you specifically, is that something that you seek out and want to be, like educate other people, mentor other people, or are you still kind of in the learning stage yourself?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much in the middle of the road between those two that you mentioned. I think I learn something all the time. Every day I learn something new. Every time I travel to a trade show, as I mentioned, I try to learn something new. By no means am I an expert at anything in this space, even technology. So I'm asking questions about AI and the way that stuff works and always trying to learn. But I also think that 6 years into the space now, I've got some valuable knowledge to share with others as well. I'm certainly not at the level of being a mentor to anybody per se, but I do think sharing information, knowledge, experiences is very important. And LinkedIn is one of the ways that I do that. I'm also involved on the AAPL ethics committee as well, which my thought process for joining that is really to leave our space better than when I joined it. When I first came here, and it's definitely gotten better over time, but there's been a negative context or connotation in private money, right? And a lot of professionals in our space have been trying to work away from that and make it a more legitimized business in the eyes of the public, if you will. So I think, with that being said, I wanted to join the ethics committee to make sure that our lenders and our service providers are doing things ethically and leaving this space better than when we entered it, right? Because the only way that we're going to continue to do good is if everybody in the space continues to be successful, right?
And I think it's clear with that answer, the industry can only benefit from more people like you that have that same mindset, outlook. So that giving back mentality, there's just not enough of it. So props to you for kind of leaning into that and realizing that's another area that you can make a difference in, not just, on your day-to-day work with Bridge Loan Network.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Speaking to Bridge Loan Network, as we kind of wrap up here, what do you expect the next wave of technology, or what's like the popular trend, or I'll let the tech expert, take over, and you can kind of drive us home here. What's next on the horizon in the industry or for Bridge Loan Network?
Yeah. So one word that you're going to hear for the next 5 years is AI, right? People are always talking about that and the impact that it's going to have on people, their jobs, the way we do business. For investors specifically, I would say keep your ears open because there are new technologies coming out utilizing AI. I had mentioned appraisals earlier. There's some really cool technology coming out that's going to allow people to do inspections with their phone. You're not necessarily going to need an inspector on property. The borrower is going to be able to do a lot of the work themselves. And things like this are extremely exciting because it cuts a cost, it cuts turnaround times and things of that nature, allowing investors to do more business, right? So AI and the way that that's going to continue to impact our space is something that I think everybody should kind of keep their ears open for and keep their eyes out and just make sure that you're understanding the impacts that this might have on you personally in your business as well.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Jacob. I think it's easy to see that you're a passionate wealth of knowledge in the industry. So for people that end up watching this episode, I think they're going to want to, find you, ask you for advice, or kind of follow along your journey. So is LinkedIn the best place to kind of connect with you? Is there any other outlets that you're, currently, sharing the Bridge Loan Network mission and advice to people going forward? Or
yeah, certainly. So for me personally, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I accept everybody. I answer messages, and I would love to hear from all of you out there. You can also find us at Bridge Loan Network on basically all social platforms. We do have a YouTube page as well, which we release a lot of educational content and just general stuff for everybody to kind of take away and grow their business personally. We try to do a lot without the expectation of getting anything back, right? And I think that's part of why we're successful is we go out there, we provide resources, we provide educational content for people that might not even be customers of ours, right? So find us on YouTube, on all the other socials, and make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you for joining me. I think we predicted this would be a pretty good episode, and we delivered. So thanks to Jacob for sitting across from me and joining me today from Bridge Loan Network. Thank you to the fans and the audience out there that watched. I'm sure you got a lot of great takeaways and some mindset and perspective from Jacob. So Jacob, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. This is Nate Zielinski signing off for Uncontested Investing.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.